everyone, welcome back to another video. So today I have Adorned Fairy Hair 2. This is a book by Deborah Muller. This was the very first portrait book that I ever started with when I wanted to learn how to color skin, color hair, and apply makeup. And I probably have more portraits colored in this book than the other book because I was literally obsessed with this book when it came out and I first purchased it. It's probably been 3 years ago now. And most of you know I've been recovering from being pretty sick. I'm still pretty sick and it still hurts a little bit to talk. Even if I can't talk all that much, I'll try to do what I can. So I remember that I had a page in this book that I had never completed, and so I wanted to pull it out today. I just thought it would be a great idea to go ahead and film it and share with you the things that I've learned over the last few years and all the secrets of where to apply the shading so that you can make your portraits look much more realistic. You could pull out any coloring page you'd like to that is a portrait, and you could follow along with this tutorial. If you check the description box down below, I will have links down there for everything that you see in this video, as well as my email list, my Facebook group, my Etsy shop, and my Patreon if you would like to support me there. So this is the page that I started quite a long time ago. Like I said, it's probably been 3 years now, and I just had these little flowers up here to finish coloring, and I never finished them. So I was going to finish those today. And then I just had the thought that it would be a really great video if I sort of went over the skin and showed you how I would do this today. You could tell by looking at the skin that it's all very flat. I did do this with Prismacolors. You can still see a lot of the white of the paper. So I'm going to transform this today and make it look very much more like what I would color if I were coloring this today. And some parts of the video may be sped up because I am still struggling to talk, but I will make sure that I explain all of the important parts as to where to lay all of the shading on this portrait. So I have some Prismacolors here, and they're just my typical Prismacolors that I would use when I am coloring portraits. You can see that they are pretty dull on the tips, and that's because I was just using them to color another portrait. And when you're coloring skin, unless you're trying to do something very, very detailed, you don't really need such a sharp tip on your pencil. These right here I was just using to sort of go over and do a lot of burnishing, so that is why they look like that with the flatter tips. It makes it much easier. So I'll just go over the colors I have because you really don't need that many colors. I have 5 colors here, and this one is light peach. And then I have peach. I have nectar to use for the areas where I'm gonna do a more medium type shading. I have henna as well as chestnut. And I'll be using the nectar to blend out the henna and the chestnut so that they don't look so dark. Now I did take a picture of this before, so I've got my thumbnail to show you the before and the after. And I really don't have any plans for this quite yet, but I do know if I were coloring this today, it would look very, very different. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my nectar. I sharpened it because I'm gonna start filling in some of the areas where I wanna create a little bit of detail. So right here where the nose is, I want to actually make this look a little bit more realistic. And so I'm going to add some shading right in here. And I usually do it all the way up into where the eye is. So by doing this, I just want to make the nose look a little bit more defined and just a tad bit more realistic. And over in here, I'm going to go in a circular motion, and I'm going to go all the way up into where her eyelid is. And in some parts of this book, there is going to be a little bit of the darker shading, like right in here. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to use the light peach, and I'm just going to blend that out in a circular motion just a little bit. And then I want to make sure I have a little bit of shading down in here on the side of her nose. This is henna. And I don't want to push too hard on my pencils because these pencils are rather dark. Down here on the bottom part of the nose, and then up in here where I see a lot of the gray shading. A lot of this should be quite a bit darker in here because you would imagine that a whole lot of light isn't getting over here in this area. And then I'm going to come down all the way up and around her nose. Then I'm going to grab my peach and I'm going to pull that out, and that just helps to blend it in just a little bit better. And then I'm going to take my nectar and I'm going to go over that just a little bit more, and I'm going to pull that out into her cheek area here. Over here on the outer part of her face, I'm going to use my henna and I'm going to shade all this in much darker than it was before. I'm going to go all the way down the side of her face here, and I'm going to come all the way down here by her lips. And you could already see the difference that this is making. And for a lot of this, I'm just really following that gray shading that was there, which back when I started coloring, I really didn't know that that gray shading really meant anything at all, honestly. So now I'm gonna take my light peach and I'm just gonna blend some of this out. And this is on the Amazon paper, and I know a lot of people like to really hate on this paper, but I have no issues with this paper. I really actually like it. So can you see the huge difference this already made just in this area here? And you just want to make sure that you blend it out with your lighter colors. But I don't want to push too hard because I did already have quite a bit of color laid down when I had originally colored it. And the Amazon paper will take some layers, but it's not going to take layer after layer after layer. Now I have my chestnut, and I'm going to add a little bit of shading in here. Now I'm going to come back with the henna, and I am going to go over that just a little bit. And this is the nectar, and then I'm going to use this just to blend that out just a little bit. Can you see the difference this is already making? And then I'm going to use the peach, and I'm going to blend all that out. But this is what I wanted to sit and do today, and just come back and go over one of my older works in progress that I never finished. And I specifically thought of this one because I never finished it and I really wanted to. And I just thought what a great idea it would be to go ahead and show y'all how to do it and go ahead and film it all. And it also shows you the difference in how far you can come from when you first start and over time as you just continue to practice. So I have my chestnut, and I'm going to go over this very, very lightly. And I'm coming back down here where I made that line for the nose. And then I'm going to come back and just blend some of this out. And I'm going to go in a circular motion to sort of pull this into the nose. Now I'm going to grab the peach, and this one's already pretty flat because I was using it on a previous page to do a lot of burnishing. So I'm going to try to blend some of this out, and I'm going to do the same thing here above her eye. I may need to grab a blender for this area here. I don't know yet. Now I have my chestnut, and I'm going to come down in here and very lightly add some color. I'm going to do the same thing under her nose. I'm going to blend that out just a little bit with the henna. And then I'm going to use the nectar and blend it out even more. And then I'm going to grab the peach, and I'm really just going from darkest to lightest and back again in all of the areas where I would apply the shading if I were to color this today, and just making those changes. And some of the shading on here is very, very dark. Like over here you can see that the shading on this page is rather dark, and some of that I would like to just cover up a little bit more, but I don't want it to be too dark. And I'm going very, very lightly. This is the henna again, and this is the peach, and I'm just going to blend that color out again. So down here under where her lips are, I'm going to add some chestnut. This is my darkest color. And then I'm going to grab the nectar and blend that out a little, and then my peach. Then for this one, I'm going to grab the lightest peach and blend that out even more. And then the other areas where you want to add shading. So the other area where you want to make sure that you add some shading is all up in here around where the hair is falling on your portrait. And so I'm just going to go very lightly. I have the henna, and then over in here, just above the eyebrow, her eyebrows are a little bit different because they're dotted, and I did already apply stickles there. So this one's going to be a little bit different, but normally I would add a little bit of shading if there was regular eyebrows. I would add quite a bit of shading all around the eyebrows, and I'm going to do this in between all where her hair is laying, because where the hair is laying, you're not going to be getting as much light hitting those areas. And I'm going very lightly because looking at this paper, it doesn't look like it's going to take that many more layers here. And then over here on this side again where the eyebrow is, I want this to be just a little bit darker. And then all around here where the hair is framing her face. So now you just need to come back with a lighter color. In this case, I'm using the nectar again. And I'm going to come back over all of this and blend those colors out. Down here where her neck is, this would be a darker area as well where you would apply some shading. And then I'm just going to go over that with the peach. This area up in here, I want it to be a little bit lighter, so I'm just going to go over this with the light peach and pull these colors through. And this light peach is really helping to blend some of these darker colors out as well. This paper's not really taking these layers too well at this point. So here where her nostril is, I probably would color this in a little bit darker here. And if you lay a color where you don't want it, always remember you've got your trusty little mono eraser. If you don't have one of these are literally one of the best things ever. But if you apply color where you don't want it, you can just go in there and get in those really small areas and be able to lift that color. You could even use this if you wanted to come back and add some highlights. Say I wanted a little bit of a highlight in here, I could just go and do this and apply a little bit of a highlight in there. So I did have a lot of pink up here when I originally did it on this part of her face, and I'm wondering if we should come back and add some of that pink in. But I want to show you the other areas first where I would add shading. So up in here where her neck or her face is meeting her neck, you always want to make sure that is darker there because a lot less light is hitting in that area. So I'm going to turn the page just a little bit, and I've got chestnut, and I'm going to just create quite a bit of shading in here. Now this portrait's a little bit different because she's got all these tattoos on her neck, but I'm not going to worry about those. I just want to show you the main areas where you would naturally add shading on a portrait. So just act like the tattoos are not there. And then of course come back with the peach and bring that color down a little bit and blend it out. And look what a huge difference that makes. Now the gray of the coloring book is making it look a little bit different, and it's a little bit hard to get rid of, but that's okay. So it looks like I had some pink in here before, so we're going to go ahead and add that back in. And I've got the Prismacolor Hot Pink, and I'm just going to go in a circular motion and add some of this color in here. I'm going to actually blend it a little bit into that darker color as well. And then as I come outward, I want it to be a little bit lighter. So I have Deco Pink, and I'm going to use the Deco Pink to add some more pink all the way out here towards her nose. I think this Deco Pink is actually helping quite a lot to blend some of these colors out. And then since we did that over there, we probably should do it as well over here. Let me see if it helps the gray in the book a little bit here. So this is my hot pink, and then let's just go over it with the Deco Pink and blend it out just a little bit. So some of the other places that I like to add shading is around the lips. So I'm just going to use my chestnut and just shade in here just a little bit around the lips. And that just makes the lips look like they're a little bit elevated. I do it a little bit under here. I think this paper is about done with layers at this point. I'm really going to have to grab a blender. You can see that the paper sort of got a little bit messed up right here around the nose, so I really can't add much more color in that area, even though I do want to. And I normally would. So let me come back with the nectar and just blend some of this out now. And see, some parts of it is still taking color. Like over here, I'm still able to apply color, but up here under the nose and all around the face, that's pretty much done. See how it just makes the lips look as though they are a little bit more elevated. And then I'm just gonna blend it out a little bit with the light peach. So I do need to come back over the rest of the face and just really fill in some of these other areas around here where I never got to. And I am gonna come back and try to add some highlights in here. And I'm going in a circular motion, and I am using a pretty dull tip of my pencil because I'm just trying to blend these colors together. I think I am going to have to come back with a blender to get it to look much smoother than it does. Try a blender and see if that will blend out some of these colors a little bit better. Okay, I have my Caran d'Ache blender and we're gonna see how well this works. Oh, it is working. Okay, so I don't want to blend it out too much because I do want to come back and add some highlights. I am going to use my new favorite white. This is the Holbein Soft White and it's amazing. So we're going to come in here and I'm going to see if this will actually work. Oh, it's taking it. Okay, so I like my highlights on the nose, just like that. And then over here in the corners of the eyes, I love adding highlights. And I don't know if we're really going to be able to get any in here on this side. Let's see if we can get this a little bit whiter here in this corner of the eye. And then a bit over in here, because this is actually working quite nicely. But I love highlights all in that area there. I'm gonna put a little bit down here on her chin, and then I need some highlights up here on her forehead. Wow, this Holbein Soft White is absolutely amazing. And then over here, gosh, is this actually waxier than a Prismacolor? I think it is. Okay, and the other thing that I always like to do is, you can see that I never went back over here and enhanced the eyelashes at all, and that always makes such a huge difference. So we're gonna go ahead and do that as well. I grabbed my dark brown, and it's really sharp because you do need quite a bit of a sharp lead to be able to do this. And you need to make sure you have your book at the right angle where it is comfortable for you. And then you're just going to make some flicks like this, going right over. I must have had glitter on her eyes as well. Feel it flicking off. See what a huge difference that makes. And then we're going to come here and we're going to do it at the bottom. And then we are going to do the other side. And again, turn your book so that it is comfortable for you, so that you can follow the curvature of the eyelashes. Okay, so I think it's done. I really cannot apply any more layers onto this paper. It's just not allowing me to. But those are the main areas where you would apply the shading when you're coloring any portrait. I'll probably come back and add some more highlights and try to do a few more changes, but you can see that the paper is just not allowing me to do anything else, and the paper just does not look right. Down in this area here, it looks like it is just starting to like pill up a little bit, but you want to just add shading anywhere where the hair is, and then anywhere around the eyes. This one in this case is sort of facing a little bit to the side rather than front facing. So on this one, there would be more shading over here because you would imagine that there is a lot more shade over here, and then she's got her hair falling over here as well. And then where the face is meeting the neck, you always want to make sure you shade that area. And then I do always like to come back and add highlights a little bit over here, down by the chin, and then over here throughout the nose, and a little bit here on the forehead. This is the one here that I'm currently working on. This is from Deborah Muller's newest book. I think it's called Bloom. But I am absolutely loving this one. I did do this with Prismacolors as well. I really love how it turned out. I've been doing this one off camera and I didn't film any part of it. I look at it now and I wish I would have, but I didn't. And the skin is still not done. I'm still working on it and still have to add a few more highlights and some shading and such, and probably add some eyeshadow. But this is on the Tone Tan paper and I absolutely love it. But a lot of you wanted to see the difference that the Tone Tan paper makes. And this is not a grayscale image, it's regular line art. And I know a lot of you have seen me color on the Tone Tan paper, when I'm doing grayscale, but I wanted to try line art on this paper as well. And I really, really love the way that it is turning out. This paper doesn't take a whole lot of layers. It takes probably just about as many as the Amazon printed books, but the Prismacolors and the Holbeins work beautifully on here. The skin is done in Prismacolors and all the hair and everything else is done with Holbeins. So this one is a mix of those two sets of pencils. But you can see the difference in how far I've come doing portraits over the years. And now when I color a portrait, just by coming back and using those techniques and just adding the shading in those certain areas, it makes a huge difference in your portraits rather than making them look so flat. Here is another one that I did. This was another video where I redid all of the skin and everything. And this one I was able to add more layers and I think it came out much, much better. And here is another one that I colored that still looks very, very what I would call flat as well. And this is probably the first portrait that I ever colored when I started coloring. So you can see the difference in what I colored 3 years ago and what I'm coloring now. So that is pretty much I would say a drastic difference. So if you just keep practicing, you end up learning so much, and then you just continue to apply those things over the years and over the time that you're coloring. And for some people it happens much quicker, and for some it is a much slower process, but just go at the speed that you enjoy. If you enjoy just coloring and not even blending that many colors together, it looks like when I did her hair I probably only used 2 colors. I didn't even know back then that you should put together 3 colors for anything. So it looks like I've got 2 colors in her hair, and I was happy with it when I did it, and I still really, really love this page. And sometimes going back and looking back at some of the things that you did over the years and comparing your then to your now, it makes a huge, huge difference in your coloring confidence. But I hope y'all enjoyed this video, and everything you see me use in this video will be in the description box below. I hope y'all have a wonderful day. Happy coloring. Bye.